Hello, my name is Kevin Rabin with Three Rivers Legal Services in Gainesville, Florida, and I'm here to talk to you today about a very common question we've been receiving over the last few weeks, which is what can a tenant do if they need to terminate an existing written lease early as a result of COVID-19? So the way this would work is the person must first have a disability under the definition of the Fair Housing Act. That definition is a disability, one or more of them, that substantially limits or alters major life activities such as breathing, walking through up and down stairs, or other activities that are fundamental to human life as it relates to housing. And importantly, when you request a reasonable accommodation, you can request it either orally or in writing. We always recommend that you do so in writing because you want to be able to prove the request was made and on what date it was made. And once you make a written request for reasonable accommodation, you don't have to put in the request itself exhaustive details. Right? The HUD has given very clear guidance that a request must at minimum just contain a recitation of what the person's disability is, how it affects their life, and how it affects the housing that they reside in, and basically prove the causal nexus between the request they're making and those disabilities. An example for somebody who's been affected by COVID-19 would be that if they're having trouble breathing after being in the hospital for several weeks recovering, they may have to access a dwelling that's not on the second floor. So for a person who is living in an apartment on the second floor who is affected by COVID-19, a reasonable accommodation may look like this. I'm requesting an accommodation and early termination on my lease because due to the complications of COVID-19, I am no longer able to walk up the stairs and reside within my dwelling. Something as simple as that is a reasonable accommodation request that should be granted by the landlord and allow for the early termination of a lease. This doesn't just apply to folks who have had COVID-19 though, it also applies to people who are at risk of COVID-19. So if somebody has existing disabilities like COPD, asthma, or other issues that may be exacerbated by COVID-19 and effectively learns that there's been an outbreak and multiple positive tests at their apartment complex, they may also request a reasonable accommodation, ideally in writing, to terminate their lease early. And so if you have any questions or concerns, you may contact Three Rivers Legal Services and apply for our services. You can do so by a toll-free phone call or by contacting us online at www.trls.org. Again, my name is Kevin Rabin, and I hope you have good success in trying to make sure that your lease does not become a burden during this time.